My name is Stephanie Matthews, and at 32, I worked my way up from nothing to become a marketing executive with a beautiful craftsman home. My family called me the boring sister despite my success. They constantly borrowed my house for social events, taking credit while criticizing everything about it. When my sister Amanda got engaged to a real estate heir, they decided to host a lavish party at my place, telling everyone it was theirs. Little did they know I was about to change the locks right before their big night. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments and hit subscribe to follow what happened when their guests arrived. Part 2, Background and Setup. I always had big dreams. But unlike some people with overnight success stories, my path was paved with consistent hard work. After college, I started as a marketing intern at a mid-sized firm, making coffee runs and organizing spreadsheets for next to nothing. I lived in a tiny studio apartment with secondhand furniture, saving every penny possible. While friends posted glamorous vacation photos, I worked overtime and weekends, slowly climbing the corporate ladder. By 26, I had become a marketing manager, and at 29, I was promoted to executive level. The 60-hour work weeks and sacrificed social life finally paid off. I saved enough for a down payment on my dream home. A beautiful 1930s craftsman with original hardwood floors, built-in cabinets, and a wraparound porch. It needed work, but I spent weekends painting, restoring, and decorating until it became a showcase of my personal style and success. My family never seemed impressed. My father, Gerald, a high school teacher with unfulfilled ambitions, always found something to criticize. Nice house, Stephanie, but in this neighborhood? You could have done better with a condo downtown. Nothing was ever quite good enough. My mother, Eleanor, who had given up a promising career to raise us, channeled her frustrated ambitions into obsessive social climbing. She constantly compared me to friends' daughters who married wealthy men or had more prestigious-sounding careers, even if they earned half my salary. And then there was Amanda, my sister who was 3 years younger. While I was studious and practical, Amanda was vivacious and charming. She flitted from job to job, never quite finding her calling, but somehow always landing on her feet. Our parents forgave her every misstep and celebrated her every minor achievement. Amanda had never managed to hold a job longer than 8 months, yet she was praised for her free spirit and social intelligence. The pattern extended to our extended family. At gatherings, Aunt Judith would gush over Amanda's new haircut or boyfriend while barely acknowledging my recent promotion. Cousin Heather, once close in childhood, now followed the family script, treating me as the reliable but unexciting backdrop to Amanda's starring role. It started with small things. Amanda borrowing my car for a weekend and returning it with an empty tank and fast food wrappers littering the floor. My father using my vacation property for a fishing trip with his friends, leaving dirty dishes and wet towels behind. My mother borrowing my designer accessories for her charity functions without asking, sometimes returning them damaged. Then they discovered the social value of my home. Stephanie, would you mind if we host a small dinner party at your place next Friday? Our condo is being painted. My mother asked about 3 years ago. It seemed reasonable, so I agreed. The small dinner turned into 15 people, none of whom I knew. I spent the day cleaning and preparing, only to be relegated to the role of unofficial caterer while my mother took credit for the house. Eleanor, this place is gorgeous. You have such an eye for design, her friend Barbara gushed. Thank you, darling. I helped Stephanie with all the decorating decisions. She needed quite a bit of guidance, my mother replied, despite never having offered a single decorating suggestion. I said nothing, telling myself it wasn't worth the conflict. This became a pattern. Small dinner parties evolved into larger gatherings. My house became the default location for family events, holiday celebrations, and my parents' anniversary parties. After each event, I would find scratched furniture, stained carpets, or chipped dishware. The cleaning was always left to me, despite promises to the contrary. Thank you notes were never sent, and verbal appreciation was scarce. Instead, I would hear about how the guest bathroom could use updating or how they had to explain away my modest artwork to their sophisticated friends. "You really should let me bring in my interior designer friend," my mother said after one such event. "This place has potential, but it needs a professional touch." I swallowed my hurt and reminded myself that family was family. My friends Lauren and Jasmine increasingly questioned my tolerance. But I defended my family out of ingrained loyalty and perhaps a lingering hope for their approval. "Your family is using you," Lauren said bluntly after I spent an entire Sunday cleaning following my cousin's bridal shower, which I wasn't even invited to help plan despite it being in my home. "They just appreciate having a nice space for gatherings," I responded weakly. "They appreciate having a nice space they can take credit for," Jasmine corrected. Specific incidents piled up. My father hosting his retirement party at my house, introducing me to his colleagues as the daughter who helped set everything up rather than the homeowner. My mother accidentally breaking my grandmother's crystal vase, then suggesting it was my fault for leaving it out in my own living room. Amanda bringing her friends over without notice. Treating my kitchen like a restaurant and my entertainment system like a public theater. Each time I tried to establish boundaries, I was made to feel unreasonable or selfish. "Family helps family," my father would say sternly. "Why are you always so difficult?" my mother would sigh. "It's just a house, Steph. Why are you so uptight?" Amanda would laugh. The cycle continued, wearing down my resistance through a combination of guilt, manipulation, and my own desire for familial harmony. I became resigned to my role as the family resource, telling myself it was a small price to pay for belonging. Then Amanda met Jackson Campbell. Part 3, the big party announcement. He proposed on his family's yacht at sunset. Amanda announced at our monthly family dinner, thrusting her left hand across the table. The diamond on her finger was enormous, catching the light from every angle. The ring was hidden in a champagne glass. Can you believe it? Jackson Campbell was the heir to Campbell Real Estate Development, one of the largest property companies in the state. His family had buildings named after them and wings in museums dedicated to their philanthropy. They were old money, established, with connections to everyone who mattered in the city. "We want a short engagement," Amanda continued, barely pausing for breath. "Just 6 weeks. His parents are traveling to Europe after that, and we want them at the wedding." My parents were practically vibrating with excitement. My father kept refilling his wine glass, making increasingly grandiose toasts. My mother couldn't stop touching Amanda's ring and asking about Jackson's family. "His mother is on the board of the symphony and the art museum," Amanda said, knowing exactly what buttons to push. "And his father golfs with the governor." I offered sincere congratulations, happy that my sister had found someone who seemed to make her genuinely happy. Jackson was actually quite nice the few times I'd met him, lacking the pretension one might expect. Then the conversation took its inevitable turn. "We need to host an engagement party," my mother declared. Something elegant but intimate. All eyes turned to me, and I knew exactly what was coming. "Stephanie," my father said, using his persuasive teacher voice, "your house would be perfect for the engagement party. It has that historical charm that the Campbells would appreciate." "Yes," Amanda clapped her hands. "Jackson's mother loves craftsman architecture. She would be so impressed." I hesitated, remembering the aftermath of previous events. "How many people are we talking about?" "Just a small gathering," my mother assured me. "Family and close friends. Maybe 50 people at most." That seemed manageable. "Okay, but I have some conditions this time." My family exchanged glances. "We need to keep to the 50-person limit. I want professional cleaners hired for afterward, not just me scrubbing for days. And I want respect for my property and clear acknowledgement that it's my house you're using." Of course, my father agreed quickly. "You worry too much," Amanda said with a dismissive wave. "It will be perfect." I should have known better. Within days, the intimate gathering had mushroomed. My mother called to update me. "We're at about 80 people now, but that's absolutely the limit," she promised. 2 days later, the Campbells have some business associates they need to include. We're looking at around 120, but that's really it. A week after that, I overheard Amanda on the phone while she was visiting me, supposedly to discuss party details. Yes, we've got capacity for 200 easily, she was saying. It's a gorgeous historic home, very impressive. The Jensens will be so jealous. When she hung up, I confronted her. 200 people? Amanda, we agreed on 50. She rolled her eyes. Don't be so uptight. It's the most important day of my life. Until your wedding, which is 6 weeks later, I pointed out. This is different. It's my introduction to Jackson's world. Everything has to be perfect. What started as a simple dinner party morphed into an extravaganza. Caterers, valet parking, bartenders, a string quartet. Floral arrangements worthy of a royal wedding. Not once was I consulted about these decisions, only informed after the fact. My mother and Amanda began appearing at my house with increasing frequency. Not to help prepare, but to critique. These curtains will need to be changed, my mother declared, fingering my custom-made window treatments. Too casual for the Campbells. And this sofa, Amanda added, bouncing on my carefully selected leather couch. It's not really making the statement we need. I tried to point out that these were my choices for my home. But my protests fell on deaf ears. We should move this bookcase, my mother continued as if I hadn't spoken. And definitely hide those family photos. We need space for the ice sculpture. Ice sculpture? This was spiraling out of control. The final straw came when I walked in on my mother and Amanda giving a tour of my house to the party planner. An imperious woman named Sylvia with a British accent that seemed to come and go. This wall could be draped in silk, Sylvia was saying, gesturing to my living room where family photos hung. And we'll need to remove all this personal clutter. Clutter. My treasured souvenirs from travels, books I loved, the quilt my grandmother made me before she died. I started to object when they moved into the kitchen, not noticing me standing in the hallway. The homeowner won't mind if we rearrange things? Sylvia asked. There was a pause. And then my mother's voice, clear as a bell. Oh, Amanda and her fiancé own the house. We're just getting it ready for their big debut. My blood ran cold. They were planning to pretend my house belonged to Amanda and Jackson? I pressed myself against the wall, straining to hear more. It's perfect for them, my mother continued. Such a statement property for a young couple. Jackson's parents will be impressed that they've invested so wisely, Amanda added. Real estate is in their blood, after all. I felt sick. This wasn't just about borrowing my house anymore. They were literally trying to steal my identity and achievements for a single night of social climbing. But the worst was yet to come. Part 4. The breaking point. 2 weeks before the party, I came home early from work with a migraine. As I turned onto my street, I was confused to see a moving truck parked in my driveway. Had I forgotten about a neighbor moving? Then I saw another truck and people carrying furniture out of my house. I parked on the street and ran up the walkway. No one stopped me as I entered my own home, now a hive of activity with strangers carrying my possessions toward the garage. What is going on here? I demanded. A mover looked up confused. Just following orders, ma'am. Are you with the party planning team? No, I am the homeowner, I said firmly. Before he could respond, I heard my mother's voice from the dining room. That side table goes to the garage as well. And be careful with it. I walked into the room to find my mother directing traffic like a field marshal, clipboard in hand. My dining set was gone, replaced by an ornate glass table I had never seen before. Mom, what are you doing? She startled, then recovered quickly. Stephanie, I thought you had that conference today. It ended early. Why are there people removing my furniture? Just temporary adjustments for the party, she said smoothly. Your furniture is perfectly nice, darling. But not quite right for the impression we need to make. You're putting my things in the garage? Without asking me. We tried calling, but you were in meetings all day, she said. Though my phone showed no missed calls. Besides, everything will be put back afterward. We rented some pieces that are more appropriate for the Campbell's social circle. I looked around, really taking in the changes. My comfortable, personal space was being transformed into something out of an impersonal luxury hotel. Rental furniture was arriving, my belongings disappearing. My identity being erased from my own home. Where's Amanda? I asked, my voice tight. Upstairs, supervising the bedroom arrangements. Bedroom arrangements? I took the stairs two at a time, finding Amanda in my master bedroom. My bed was gone, replaced by an enormous four-poster monstrosity. My dresser drawers were open, clothing partially removed. What are you doing with my clothes? I asked, my voice barely controlled. Amanda turned, not even having the grace to look embarrassed. Oh, we need to clear some closet space for the coats. Don't worry. It's just going in boxes in the guest room. You're packing up my personal belongings without even asking me? I was nearly shouting now. Amanda sighed dramatically. Why are you being so difficult? This is important, Stephanie. The Campbells and their friends aren't just random people. They have influence. Connections. This party could change everything for our family. It's my house, Amanda. My things. My life you're displacing. For one night, she countered. One important night. Stop being so selfish. That word hit me like a slap. Selfish. For wanting basic respect in my own home. I need a minute, I said, turning and heading back downstairs. I retreated to the kitchen, the one room not yet completely overtaken, and poured myself a glass of water with shaking hands. Through the doorway, I could see into the living room where more of my furniture was being carried out. A lifetime of careful saving, selecting pieces that meant something to me, creating a home that reflected my journey, all being treated as an embarrassing secret to be hidden away. I heard footsteps on the stairs and voices approaching. I was about to step out when I heard my name. Stephanie is being impossible, as usual, Amanda was saying. You'd think she'd be grateful we're upgrading her basic furniture, even temporarily. I froze, glass halfway to my lips. She's always been difficult, my mother agreed. No sense of what's truly important in life. I know, Amanda continued. Can you believe she thinks her marketing job is some great achievement? Working 60 hours a week just to afford this house, and for what? She has no real connections, no influence. While you'll be marrying into the Campbell family, my mother said proudly. Jackson's father could make one phone call and get anyone a better job than Stephanie has worked a decade for. I pressed myself against the wall, hardly breathing. Is that really what they thought of me? Of my hard work and achievements? The important thing, my father's voice joined them, is that the Campbells never realize this is actually Stephanie's house. They need to believe it's your first investment property with Jackson. Exactly, Amanda agreed. Can you imagine their faces if they knew the truth? That their son is marrying into a family where the most successful member is a middle manager who thinks this basic house in this average neighborhood is something to be proud of. Middle manager? I was an executive with a team of 15 people. And my neighborhood was historic and desirable, with houses regularly featured in architectural magazines. We'll introduce her as your helpful sister, my mother decided. That explains her presence without giving away the truth. Let's hope she doesn't embarrass us, my father added. You know how awkward she gets at social events. Maybe we should ask her to help in the kitchen, Amanda suggested. Keep her out of sight. Her fashion sense isn't exactly going to impress the Campbells. They laughed, the sound piercing my heart like physical pain. I still can't believe she's never understood how disappointing she's been, my father said, his voice lower but still audible. All that potential, and she settles for ordinary. At least she's useful sometimes, my mother replied. This house may be her only real contribution to the family. I felt the glass slip from my fingers, catching it just before it fell. My entire body seemed to be filled with ice. The family I had spent my life trying to please, whose approval I had sought through every achievement, saw me as nothing but a disappointment and a resource to be used. In that moment, something broke inside me. And something else, something stronger, began to form in its place. I set the glass down silently, grabbed my purse, and slipped out the back door. They were so busy planning my erasure they didn't even notice me leave. Part 5, The Revenge Plan. I drove aimlessly, tears blurring my vision, eventually finding myself outside Lauren's townhouse. I must have looked terrible when she opened the door because her smile immediately dropped. Stephanie? What happened? The story poured out of me between sobs as Lauren made tea and called Jasmine, who arrived 20 minutes later. I told them everything, every painful detail of what I'd overheard. "Those absolute monsters," Lauren said when I finished, her face flushed with anger. Jasmine, always the more analytical one, was already thinking ahead. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me wants to confront them, but they'll just deny it or make me feel crazy for being upset." "That's their pattern," Lauren agreed. "They minimize your feelings until you doubt yourself." "I can't let them use my house for this party," I said firmly. "Not after what they said. Not after how they've treated me." "Then don't," Jasmine said simply. Lauren and I looked at her. "It's your house," she continued. "You own it. Your name is on the deed and mortgage. Legally, they can't do anything without your permission." A thought began forming in my mind. What if I'm just not there? What if the house isn't available for their party? Lauren's eyes widened. "You mean?" "I changed the locks," I said, the plan crystallizing as I spoke. "I take what matters to me, and I leave them to explain to their precious Campbell family why the party venue is suddenly unavailable. They'll be furious." Jasmine warned, though I could see she was intrigued by the idea. "They already think I'm a disappointment," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. How much worse could it get? We stayed up half the night refining the plan. The next morning, Lauren called her brother James, who practiced family law. "You're well within your rights," he confirmed after hearing the situation. "It's your property. They have no legal claim to it, regardless of what they've told others." "Could they sue me or something?" I asked. "For what? Not allowing them to use your house for a party?" "No. They might try to claim they had an oral contract with you, but given that they've already violated the terms you agreed to, that wouldn't hold up." He advised me to document everything, including the current state of my home and possessions, and to be prepared for significant family fallout. This kind of stand often leads to estrangement. At least temporarily, he warned. "Are you prepared for that possibility?" I thought about the years of disrespect, the dismissal of my achievements, and finally, the cruel words I had overheard. "Yes," I said. "I think that ship has already sailed." Over the next 3 days, I executed my plan with military precision. First, I called work and took emergency personal leave, citing a family crisis, which wasn't far from the truth. Next, I rented a storage unit and began removing my most valuable and sentimental possessions when I knew my family wouldn't be at the house. The movers had already packed some things, which actually made this easier. I documented everything with photos and videos, creating a detailed inventory of what was mine versus what had been rented. Lauren and Jasmine helped, turning a painful process into something almost empowering. "Look at these claw marks on your coffee table," Jasmine pointed out, photographing the damage. "I bet that happened during one of their previous parties." "And this wine stain on the rug," Lauren added. "Definitely not your doing. Miss drinks 1 glass of wine and gets sleepy." 5 days before the party, I contacted a locksmith and security company, scheduling them for the day before the event. I made arrangements to stay at Lauren's guest house for at least 2 weeks. Possibly longer, depending on how things played out. The emotional preparation was harder than the logistical one. Lauren and Jasmine helped me work through the guilt that kept surfacing despite my resolve. "They're your family," I said during a moment of doubt. "Maybe I should just let them have this one night." "They're adults who have been taking advantage of you for years," Lauren reminded me. "One night that they explicitly planned to humiliate you in front of strangers. And claim your achievements as Amanda's," Jasmine added. "Don't forget that part." We role-played potential confrontations, with Lauren playing my mother with frightening accuracy, helping me prepare responses to the manipulation techniques I knew would come. "But we're family," Lauren said, mimicking my mother's guilt-inducing tone. "Yes, and family should respect each other." I practiced responding. "You didn't respect me or my home. You're ruining your sister's one special night," she continued, voice rising dramatically. "Amanda chose to build her special night on lies and disrespect," I replied, my voice growing steadier with each repetition. "That was her choice, not mine." By the day before the party, everything was in place. My valuables and personal items were secure. The locksmith arrived promptly at 9 a.m., changing all exterior locks and providing new keys that only I would have. The security company followed, updating the alarm codes and installing a doorbell camera that would send footage directly to my phone. I did a final walkthrough of my house. Now a strange hybrid of my remaining furniture and the rented pieces my family had brought in. I made sure everything was clean and orderly. Whatever happened next, it wouldn't be because I had left things in disarray. As I locked the door for the final time, I felt a curious mixture of emotions. Sadness for what this would do to my family relationships. Anxiety about the confrontation to come. But mostly, a growing sense of rightness, of finally standing up for myself after years of allowing my boundaries to be trampled. I posted a carefully staged photo on social media of me boarding a plane for a last-minute beach getaway, courtesy of Jasmine's photo editing skills and a previous vacation picture. Then I turned off notifications and settled into Lauren's guest house to wait. The first message came at 6 p.m. "Stephanie, call me immediately. There's something wrong with your front door. Mother." By 7 p.m., the messages had turned frantic. "This isn't funny, Stephanie. The caterers will be here in an hour. Your alarm code isn't working. Call us now. Where are you? The rental company needs to deliver the additional chairs." I watched it all unfold through my doorbell camera. My mother trying her key repeatedly, looking increasingly flustered. My father on the phone, presumably trying to reach me. Amanda arriving in a panic, mascara already smudged from tears. At 8 p.m., a locksmith van pulled up. But after a brief conversation with my family, he left again. Lauren's brother had warned me this might happen and explained, "No legitimate locksmith will break into a house without proof of ownership. They could lose their license." By 9 p.m., guests began arriving. Men in tuxedos and women in evening gowns, looking confused as they congregated on my front lawn. I recognized Jackson and who must be his parents from photos. The mother looking increasingly displeased as Amanda tried to explain the situation. Watching the footage with Lauren and Jasmine, I felt a momentary pang of sympathy for Amanda. This was truly humiliating for her. But then I remembered her words. Their son is marrying into a family where the most successful member is a middle manager who thinks this basic house in this average neighborhood is something to be proud of. My sympathy evaporated. This was the consequence of her choices, not mine. By 10 p.m., it was clear the party wasn't happening. Guests were leaving, some looking annoyed, others amused. Social media was already buzzing with cryptic posts about a party disaster at the Campbell Matthews engagement celebration. I turned off my phone, suddenly exhausted by the emotions of the day. Tomorrow would bring the real confrontation, but for tonight, I had done what I needed to do. I had finally stood up for myself. Part 6. Execution and immediate aftermath. The morning after the failed party, I woke to over 50 missed calls and dozens of text messages. I scrolled through them without reading, noting that they came from not just my immediate family, but extended relatives and family friends. News traveled fast. "Are you ready for this?" Lauren asked, setting a mug of coffee in front of me. "As I'll ever be," I replied. We reviewed the security footage from the previous night, which told quite a story. After the initial confusion with the locks, my family had grown increasingly desperate. The caterers had arrived at 7:30 p.m., followed by the bartenders and string quartet. With no way to enter the house, they set up partially on the porch and lawn, creating a bizarre outdoor reception that clearly wasn't planned. Guests began arriving around 8:45 p.m., dressed in formal attire and looking confused by the setup. Amanda, wearing a silver sequined gown, could be seen attempting to explain while maintaining a strained smile. My mother fluttered from group to group, her gestures becoming more animated as the evening progressed. The turning point came around 9:30 p.m. when Jackson's parents arrived. Mrs. Campbell, a slim woman with perfect posture and an expression that suggested she had just smelled something unpleasant, clearly wasn't buying whatever explanation she was being given. The footage showed a tense conversation between her, Amanda, and my parents, with Jackson looking increasingly uncomfortable. Shortly after, guests began to leave. Some were clearly trying to hide their amusement, while others made no attempt to disguise their irritation at having dressed up for a non-event. By 10:15 p.m., only my family, Jackson, and his parents remained, engaged in what appeared to be a heated discussion on my front lawn. "I wish we had audio," Jasmine said, peering at the screen. "I think their body language tells us plenty," Lauren replied. Around 10:30 p.m., the Campbell family departed, Jackson looking back several times as if torn. Amanda collapsed onto the porch steps, head in her hands. My parents stood on either side of her, my father's face flushed with anger, my mother dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "Round 1 to Stephanie," Lauren said, squeezing my shoulder. I felt no triumph, only a strange numbness mixed with resolve. "Round 2 is coming," I said. "They'll track me down eventually." I was right. By noon, my cousin Diana had messaged Lauren asking if I was with her. By 2 p.m., my mother's car pulled into Lauren's driveway. "Ready?" Lauren asked. I nodded, surprised to find my hands steady. "Yes." My mother rang the doorbell repeatedly until Lauren answered. "Where is she?" I heard her demand. "Hello, Eleanor," Lauren said calmly. "If you're referring to Stephanie, she's here. And she's willing to talk to you if you can be civil." "Civil?" My mother's voice rose. "After what she did to this family?" I stepped into the hallway. "You mean what I did to prevent you from using my home under false pretenses?" My mother turned, her face a mask of fury and hurt. "How could you do this to your sister? To all of us?" "Please come in," Lauren said firmly. "The neighbors don't need to hear this conversation." Reluctantly, my mother entered. My father and Amanda were right behind her, both looking as if they hadn't slept. Amanda's eyes were swollen from crying, and my father had the tight jaw that signaled his barely contained anger. "Explain yourself," he demanded once Lauren had closed the door. "I think you should explain yourselves first," I replied, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. "Explain why you were removing my furniture without permission. Why you were planning to lie to the Campbells about who owned my house. Why you've been treating me like a disappointment while using my home and possessions whenever it suits you." "We were improving things for the party," my mother said dismissively. "Everything would have been put back." "And the lies about ownership?" "The plan to introduce me as Amanda's helpful sister rather than the homeowner." A flicker of unease crossed my mother's face. "I don't know what you think you heard." "I heard everything," I said flatly. "I was in the kitchen when you discussed it. About how embarrassing it would be if the Campbells knew the truth. About how disappointing I've been as a daughter." "You were eavesdropping?" my father accused. "In my own home that you are in the process of dismantling?" "Yes, I heard you talking about me." Amanda stepped forward, tears streaming down her face again. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The Campbells think we're liars now. Jackson's mother can barely look at me." "And whose fault is that?" I asked. "Who decided to build a relationship on lies?" "It wasn't lies," she protested. "It was just enhancing the truth. Claiming my house as yours is not enhancing the truth. It's a lie, plain and simple." "This isn't just about you," my father said. "This affects the entire family. Amanda's future. Our standing in the community." "No," I countered. "You made it about me when you decided to use my home as a prop in your social climbing without my consent. When you planned to erase me from my own life story." My mother collapsed onto Lauren's sofa, suddenly looking much older. "I don't understand why you're being so vindictive. We're your family." "Family respects each other," I said, echoing the words I had practiced. "You haven't respected me or my home for years." "One night," Amanda pleaded. "It was just one night that mattered." "It was never going to be just one night," I replied. "If this had worked, what would have been next? Using my house for your wedding? Holidays? Would I ever have gotten to claim my own home again?" The doorbell rang, interrupting the tense standoff. Lauren answered to find Jackson standing there, looking uncomfortable but determined. "I'm sorry to intrude," he said politely, "but I need to speak with Amanda and her family." Lauren looked at me, and I nodded. One more player in this drama wouldn't change anything now. Jackson entered cautiously, eyes widening slightly at the obvious tension in the room. "I've been trying to reach you," he said to Amanda. "You weren't answering your phone." "It died," she said weakly. I forgot my charger in all the chaos. He nodded, then turned to me. You must be Stephanie, the actual homeowner. I nodded, watching my family's expressions closely. My mother looked mortified, my father angry, and Amanda terrified. I owe you an apology, Jackson continued. I had no idea about any of this. I was told this was Amanda and my investment property, a surprise she had been working on. That's what I was told they were telling people, I confirmed. It's not true. I bought this house 3 years ago. I've owned it solely. And I've worked hard for it. Jackson ran a hand through his hair. My parents are extremely upset. They value honesty above all else. Jackson, please. Amanda stepped toward him. I can explain everything. He held up a hand. I've heard enough explanations. I need time to think about what this means for us. The implication hung in the air. Their engagement was in jeopardy. Now look what you've done, my mother hissed at me as Jackson stepped back toward the door. I didn't lie to anyone, I replied evenly. That was your choice. Actually, Jackson interjected. My parents don't blame Stephanie. They understand protecting one's property and reputation. Their concern is with the deception. He looked at Amanda with genuine sadness. I'll call you tomorrow. We need to talk, but not like this. After he left, Amanda turned on me with fury. Are you happy now? You've ruined everything. You ruined it yourself, I replied. All of you did. When you decided that appearances were more important than reality. When you decided that using me was acceptable as long as it got you what you wanted. We've always supported you. My father insisted. Have you? When was the last time any of you actually celebrated something I accomplished? When did you ever defend me against criticism or acknowledge my hard work? The silence that followed was telling. I have the texts and emails, I continued. Years of asking to use my house, my car, my vacation property. Years of criticism disguised as help. Years of being told I was never quite good enough despite everything I've achieved. That's not fair, my mother protested weakly. What's not fair is how you've treated me, I said. My voice finally breaking. What's not fair is working myself to exhaustion to earn your approval and never getting it. What's not fair is being called selfish for finally saying no to being used. The confrontation continued for another hour, cycles of accusations, denials, and tearful recriminations. My mother vacillated between rage and wounded martyrdom. My father maintained his position of authority even as it crumbled. Amanda alternated between blaming me entirely and moments of genuine remorse quickly overshadowed by self-pity. I remained steady, drawing strength from Lauren's presence and the absolute certainty that I was, for once, standing up for myself appropriately. Eventually, emotional exhaustion set in. My father checked his watch and stood. This isn't over, he said ominously. But we need to go. Your mother is overwrought. As they prepared to leave, my cousin Heather arrived, apparently sent to try a different approach. Stephanie, she began cautiously, everyone is really upset. Can't we find a compromise? There is no compromise on respect, I replied. Either they acknowledge what they did was wrong, or we have nothing more to discuss. Heather looked surprised at my firmness. I've never heard you talk like this before. I've never been pushed this far before. After a moment, something shifted in her expression. Good for you, she said quietly, so only I could hear. It's about time someone stood up to them. That tiny moment of support from an unexpected source gave me strength as I watched my family leave, their anger and hurt trailing behind them like storm clouds. Round 2. Lauren said when the door closed. You did it. It's not over, I warned. This is just the beginning. But for the first time in years, perhaps ever, I felt truly in control of my own story. Part 7, Confrontation and Turning Point. For 3 days, an uneasy silence fell. No calls, no texts, nothing from my immediate family. It was both a relief and unsettling. Like the stillness before a hurricane makes landfall. The extended family, however, made up for it. Aunt Judith called to tell me I was breaking my mother's heart. Uncle Paul texted that family disputes should stay private, not aired in front of strangers like the Campbells. Cousins I barely spoke to twice a year suddenly had strong opinions about my selfishness and immaturity. I let it all wash over me, responding minimally if at all. They were operating on a selective version of events provided by my parents and Amanda. Nothing I could say would change their minds until they were ready to hear the truth. On the fourth day, the pattern changed. My cousin Diana, always a bit of a black sheep herself, called not to criticize but to understand. I know there must be more to the story, she said. Your parents and Amanda are on a full damage control campaign, but it doesn't add up. You're not impulsive or cruel. I explained what had happened, including the overheard conversation. Diana listened without interrupting. That tracks with how they've always treated you, she said finally. I've noticed it at family gatherings for years, but didn't want to overstep. I wish someone had said something, I admitted. I thought I was imagining it sometimes. Gaslighting is a family specialty, Diana observed dryly. Listen, not everyone is buying their version. Aunt Patricia actually questioned my mother about why you would do this, out of the blue. There are cracks forming in the united front. That afternoon, as if summoned by Diana's prediction, Aunt Patricia herself called. Our conversation was brief but significant. I want you to know, she said carefully, that I've always admired how hard you've worked. Whatever happened with Amanda's party, I'm sure you had your reasons. It wasn't exactly taking my side, but from Aunt Patricia, the family diplomat, it was practically a declaration of allegiance. The real surprise came that evening when Heather texted, Jackson broke things off with Amanda. Temporary separation, he says, but it doesn't look good. I felt a pang of guilt despite everything. Amanda might be selfish and entitled, but she did seem to genuinely care for Jackson. Don't you dare blame yourself, Lauren said when I showed her the text. Their relationship issues are about trust, not a party. The next morning, the doorbell rang. I peeked through the curtains to see my father standing alone on Lauren's porch, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. Just you? I asked after opening the door. Just me, he confirmed. May I come in? I hesitated, then nodded. Lauren was at work. So we had the house to ourselves. Coffee? I offered stiffly. Please. We sat at the kitchen table, the silence stretching uncomfortably until he finally spoke. Your mother is devastated. He began. I'm sure she is, I replied neutrally. This isn't like you, Stephanie. You've always been the reasonable one, the dependable one. Maybe that's the problem, I said. I've been reasonable and dependable to the point of letting everyone walk all over me. Something had to change. He studied me as if seeing someone new. What exactly did you overhear that day? I told him, word for word, repeating the cruel assessments of my life and career, the plan to erase me from my own home, the dismissal of everything I had worked for. His face fell as I spoke, color draining away. We were stressed about the party, he said weakly. People say things they don't mean when they're under pressure. Do they? Or do they finally say what they actually think because they're too distracted to maintain the pretense? He had no answer for that. Dad, this isn't just about the party. It's about years of being treated as less than, despite working harder than anyone else in the family. It's about having my boundaries ignored and my achievements dismissed. The party was just the final straw. We've always been proud of you, he insisted, but his eyes slid away from mine as he said it. No, you've been grateful that I'm useful. That's not the same thing. Our conversation continued in circles, him trying to find a way back to the status quo, me holding firm to my new boundaries. Eventually, he left with a promise to talk to your mother, though what good that would do remained unclear. 2 days later, the real showdown arrived. My mother called Lauren's house phone, apparently having realized I was screening her mobile calls. We need to talk, she said without preamble. All of us. Tonight. On neutral ground, I specified. Not at your house or Lauren's. We agreed to meet at a private room in a restaurant downtown. When I arrived, I found not just my parents and Amanda, but also Jackson, his parents, Aunt Patricia, and to my surprise, Diana. What is this? I asked, hesitating at the door. An intervention, my mother said grimly. A family meeting, Aunt Patricia corrected gently. To clear the air. I took a seat beside Diana, who squeezed my hand under the table. What followed was 2 hours of the most honest conversation our family had ever had. Initially, My mother tried to frame the narrative around my vindictive action and the humiliation it had caused. But Aunt Patricia unexpectedly redirected. "Eleanor," she said firmly, "I think we need to address why Stephanie felt this was her only option." That simple statement changed the trajectory of the entire meeting. Jackson's parents, William and Catherine Campbell, were reserved but attentive. When they did speak, it was with measured consideration. "Our concern," Catherine said carefully, "is not about a cancelled party. It's about the pattern of deception that has emerged." William nodded. "We value honesty and integrity above social connections or appearances. That's the foundation of our business and our family." Amanda, seeing her future with Jackson hanging in the balance, finally broke down in a way that felt genuine rather than manipulative. "I was jealous," she admitted, tears streaming down her face. "You've always been the capable one, Stephanie. The smart one. The successful one. I was the pretty, charming sister with nothing substantial to show for myself. Using your house, pretending. It was wrong. I just wanted to feel accomplished for once." Her raw honesty stunned the room into silence. My mother, seeing the tide turning, attempted a new strategy. "We may have gotten carried away with the party planning," she conceded. But Stephanie's reaction was disproportionate. "Was it?" Diana challenged. "After years of having her boundaries ignored?" "No one asked you," my mother snapped. "That's precisely the problem," Aunt Patricia interjected. "No one asked Stephanie either. About using her home, rearranging her furniture, packing up her belongings." The conversation continued, painful truths emerging like splinters being extracted. My father, to my shock, eventually acknowledged his part. "I've been harder on you than Amanda," he admitted, "because I saw myself in you. The steady, reliable one who does everything right but never quite gets the recognition. I think I resented that you succeeded where I settled." It wasn't a full apology, but it was the most honest thing he'd ever said to me. The turning point came when Jackson addressed Amanda directly. "I care about you," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "But I need to know this isn't who you really are. That you understand why this was wrong and are committed to changing." Amanda looked from Jackson to me, something shifting in her expression. "I do understand," she said quietly. "I've been selfish and entitled. Stephanie, I can't undo what I did or said. But I am truly sorry." The apology was imperfect but sincere. For the first time, I saw my sister as she really was, insecure, flawed, but capable of growth. My mother was the hardest nut to crack. She maintained that while mistakes were made, family loyalty should have prevented me from public humiliation. But even she, under the steady gaze of Aunt Patricia and the Campbells, eventually offered a stiff acknowledgement that perhaps we overstepped. By the end of the evening, nothing was fully resolved, but everything had changed. The family mythology had been challenged. The dynamics had shifted. For the first time, I had been truly seen and heard. As we were leaving, Catherine Campbell approached me privately. "Your home sounds lovely," she said. "A craftsman." "I understand. I have a particular fondness for architectural integrity and personal achievement. Perhaps someday you might show it to me properly, owner to guest." It was a small gesture, but a meaningful one. Recognition of my accomplishment from someone my family had been so desperate to impress. "I'd like that," I replied, finding that I meant it. The road ahead would be long and uncertain, but that night, something fundamental had shifted. The truth, long buried under politeness and pretense, had finally been spoken aloud. Part 8. Resolution and growth. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I returned to my house. The rental furniture was gone, replaced by my own pieces brought back from storage. The changes my family had made were undone, each room restored to my vision and taste. As I walked through the spaces, running my hands over familiar surfaces, I felt something new. This wasn't just my house anymore. It was truly my home, defended and reclaimed. Each room felt more authentically mine than before, as if the act of standing up for it had deepened my connection to these walls and floors. The aftermath of our family meeting continued to unfold in unexpected ways. Aunt Patricia sent a handwritten letter that arrived my first day back. I've watched for years as my sister and brother-in-law treated you with less consideration than you deserved, she wrote. I regret my silence. Please know that many of us have always seen your worth, even when we failed to speak up. Cousin Heather stopped by with coffee and an awkward but sincere apology. I followed their lead because it was easier, she admitted. I knew it wasn't right, but I didn't want to rock the boat. You've taught me something about courage. Even some of the relatives who had initially condemned me began to reassess as the full story circulated through the family grapevine. Uncle Paul sent a brief text, heard more details. Situation more complicated than I understood. Hope you're doing okay. My parents were a more complex story. For the first 2 weeks, my mother maintained a chilly silence broken only by occasional passive-aggressive texts about family healing when you're ready to apologize too. My father, however, made a halting effort at reconciliation. He called once a week, our conversations stilted but gradually warming. During our third call, he surprised me. I brought your mother by the house today, he said, just driving past. I pointed out the new landscaping in the front yard. And? I prompted when he fell silent. She mentioned that the hydrangeas were blooming nicely. Coming from my mother, this was practically an olive branch. They are, I agreed. Blue ones this year. Your grandmother always loved hydrangeas, he said softly. It was a tiny moment of connection, imperfect but real. The most significant change came with Amanda. Jackson had extended their break, but not officially ended the engagement. The uncertainty had prompted genuine self-reflection on her part. She called one afternoon, asking if she could visit. I agreed with some trepidation. She arrived looking different somehow. The designer clothes and perfect makeup were the same, but her demeanor had changed. The brittle confidence was gone, replaced by something more authentic. I'm in therapy, she announced as soon as she sat down. Twice a week. That's good, I said, surprised. Jackson suggested it, but I'm doing it for me. I've been talking a lot about why I felt the need to lie about your house, about my life. Why I've always been jealous of you. Jealous of me? I couldn't hide my shock. But you were always the golden child. Amanda laughed without humor. The pretty one. The charming one. The one with potential that never quite materialized into anything real. Do you know how terrifying that is? To be valued for qualities that fade or are subjective, while you built something tangible and lasting. For the first time, I saw my sister clearly. Not as the favored rival, but as someone fighting her own battles with our parents' expectations. I'm not asking for forgiveness yet, she continued. I know I need to earn that. But I am asking for a chance to try. We talked for hours, really talked, perhaps for the first time as adults. There were tears and uncomfortable truths, but also moments of surprising connection. She asked about my career with genuine interest. I asked about her interests beyond social climbing, discovering passions I'd never known she had. As for Jackson, they were cautiously dating again. With new ground rules about honesty and authenticity. The Campbells had been unexpectedly understanding once the full story emerged. Catherine actually respects you enormously, Amanda admitted. She told Jackson you reminded her of herself at your age, building something on your own terms. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. Over the following months, our family slowly began to heal. Not by returning to old patterns, but by creating new, healthier ones. My mother struggled the most with the change dynamic. Her apology, when it finally came, was imperfect and qualified. But it was a start. I may not have always shown it properly, she said during a tense lunch, but I do love you, Stephanie. And I am proud of what you've accomplished. Even if it wasn't the path I would have chosen. I accepted her words for what they were, the best she could offer from within a lifetime of her own conditioning and insecurities. The most profound changes, though, were within me. I established clear boundaries and stuck to them, no longer tolerating disrespect or dismissal from anyone, family or otherwise. I spoke up immediately when old patterns emerged, sometimes causing tension but ultimately fostering more honest relationships. My home became truly mine again, a sanctuary I shared on my terms. When family visited, It was by invitation, with respect for my space and acknowledgement of my ownership. The first time my mother asked permission before moving a vase, I nearly fell over in shock. My confidence extended beyond family dynamics. At work, I began advocating more strongly for my ideas and achievements. I started dating Jordan, a landscape architect I met through a community garden project, who appreciated my strength and ambition rather than being threatened by it. 6 months after the party that never was, as it had become known in family lore, Amanda and Jackson did get married. It was a smaller, more authentic celebration than originally planned. My house was not the venue. In my toast at their wedding, I spoke about growth and second chances, about the courage it takes to be honest even when it's difficult. Amanda's eyes filled with tears as we clinked glasses, a silent acknowledgement of how far we'd come. That night, as I drove home to my beloved Craftsman house, I reflected on the journey. The pain had been real, the confrontation necessary. Some relationships were stronger now, others permanently altered. But through it all, I had finally learned the most important lesson: respect begins with respecting yourself. If you've ever had to stand up to family members who took you for granted, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. How did you find the courage to set boundaries? Was the outcome worth the difficult conversations? And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that button to join our community of people supporting each other through life's toughest moments. Remember, setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's self-respect, and you deserve nothing less. Thank you for listening to my story today. And I hope it gives you strength if you're facing similar challenges in your own life.